I wanted to kind of like not recap the format, but I kind of want to like, at least in my mind, draw a line after the current format, after national season, right? Because I think it's fair to just like go back and think like, what is the current situation like in the TCG? What's the format like? Is it good? Is it bad? And if there was a ban list, which once again, let me emphasize this, I have no idea if that's going to happen, but how could that look like? And you might be surprised because I've been saying how much I am displeased with Snake Eyes in recent weeks, but my opinion is not going to be as negative and my ban list discussion is not going to be as big. I personally believe I've looked at the format and I've experienced a lot of matchups in the format that were not involving Snake Eyes. I actually don't think that we are in that bad of a spot if you look past Snake Eyes, really. I think a lot of the steps that they've taken for the TCG in recent months have been pretty good. I've been looking at German national results and it's like literally like Snake Eyes is putting up like solid numbers, but everything else is like represented in very balanced amounts. And also most of these decks are actually pretty cool. I genuinely don't have many issues with a lot of these decks in the format, except a very few outliers, which are mostly only because of like individual cards, really. You have decks abusing like Shifter, you have decks abusing Rivalry, you have some decks abusing like Gimmick Puppet or Skill Drain or something like that, right? But that's a individual card problem more so than a problem with the decks, right? For example, I don't have a problem with Branded at all outside of the Gimmick Puppet lock. I don't have a problem with some of the Shifter decks if it wasn't for Shifter. I don't have a problem with Centurion. The problem I have is with Calamity. I think if we look past Snake Eyes, I think the format is actually in a pretty okay spot, or like in a pretty good spot actually. But obviously that all doesn't really matter if there is like 100 super balanced and cool decks in the game when there is one that is not balanced and not that fun, but it's better than everything else. That's just going to overshadow all the positive changes that have happened in the past. I just wanted to preface this by saying that I think there's a lot of things going right for Yu-Gi-Oh! In recent months. I genuinely believe that there's a lot of steps being taken in the right directions when it comes to ban list designs, for example. Our locals has a gentleman agreement. Nobody plays Snake Eyes and it's really fun. See, that's what I mean, right? Essentially, I feel like we are not there yet in like a super good spot, but we are very close. Whether the current format is a tier 0 format or not depends on which tournament you look at. When you look at YCS Indy, for example, you could very much think that it is a tier 0 format. If you look at nationals, the format is a little more diverse. But in my opinion, it's not only about like diversity. Diversity in a format can be good. Diversity in a format can be bad. Like I think it's more about what kind of decks people are playing. Are those decks fun to have around in the format or are they not? I think Snake Eye at this point has established itself as a deck that I personally don't enjoy because I simply don't think it creates a healthy environment for the game when there's a deck that can create like insane combos off of one card, but it's also super hard to interrupt because it has super powerful extenders, right? Like every card in the deck is basically a starter and an extender. It also has the ability to cut everyone else off of their game because it has room for like 18 or more non-engine. Right? And I think that is overall a very problematic mix. So normally I wouldn't say like something that has like 20 out of top 64. That is not necessarily a problem. That is like okay. That is like relatively normal tier 1 numbers. It's more about how Snake Eye works and what kind of dynamics it creates rather than just how popular is it. That being said, I'm getting this question very, very often in recent days or weeks is like, do you think we're going to get a ban list before the NAWCQ or European Championship happens, which is like in a month? Nationals in Europe are now over and now we are heading into the Continental Championship season, right? NAWCQ, European Championship and all that kind of stuff. Whether we will get a ban list or not is something that I have no idea about. Let me be clear about that. If I said yes or no, I would just be guessing. I think it would be good if we got one. My most important concern with it is the viewability or the watchability of NAWCQ and the European Championship. Also the other Continental Championships, but those I'm excluding because they don't always have a live stream, I think. I'm not entirely sure if they will this year. But EUWCQ and NAWCQ are like by far the most high premier events of the season. if you exclude the World Championships. It feels like the entire season builds up towards those events, right? From my experience, I just feel like it wouldn't be that smart if those were happening in Snake Eye format again. We were watching YCS Indie together, right? And like the excitement of Snake Eye's mirror matches happening in like the finals and all that kind of stuff, I could definitely tell that people were not super happy with that while watching the tournament. From a viewer perspective, I think it'd be really good if something changed before NAWCQ or Euros, simply to make those tournaments more hype to look at, right? On another note, I want to say a couple things that make me wonder if it's actually realistic that we're getting a ban list until that point. First of all, I think historically, we haven't seen a ban list happen between nationals and World / Euros / NAWCQ very often. I don't even know if we've ever had it, but I don't want to say anything wrong. 2019 ban list was after Euros. Yeah, that is usually what we have. I think usually we have a ban list after Euros or NAWCQ, and I think theoretically that makes sense, right? It's one season of nationals leading up to Euros or NAWCQ, and you play those in the same ban list. That kind of makes sense if the format is in a fine spot, right? The other thing that makes me wonder if we're actually getting a ban list is the fact that we have sets coming out, right? We have Battles of Legends and we have Infinite Forbidden. And although both of those sets are not going to dethrone Snake Eyes, I believe, they are still a shake up for the format. It's a decision that I feel like Konami has made in the past where they were like, do we need a ban list now? Nah, we'll just wait and see if the set changes any. I think it's realistic that they will do it again this time around. So I'm not super positive that we're getting a ban list. I would be pleasantly surprised if we got one. It's too soon. See, that is the thing that I don't agree with. I personally don't think that a ban list can be narrowed down to a specific time frame every single time. I know it's very, very normal for a lot of other games to have more frequent updates if something goes wrong. You can't just say, oh, the ban list needs to happen every 4 months or every 6 months or anything like that. The last ban list was a solid ban list, but it completely missed Snake Eye. And in a situation like this, I think it would be better for them to just acknowledge that, well, our last ban list didn't quite get the job done, so we're gonna make the next one happen a little bit sooner than later, right? Dynamic is the right word. Like, if the format is completely fine, then it's okay to wait like 5 months with the ban list. But if the format is dominated by Snake Eyes, then you make a ban list, the format is still dominated by Snake Eyes, then maybe you should think about dropping the next one a little bit sooner and not wait as long, right? Is my personal take. I think they need to be more dynamic with this. And I think right now we are in a spot where I think the majority of the community would prefer it sooner rather than later. Today's video is sponsored by Cloud Card Grading, a new sponsor of the channel, and their motto is grading for you, not for money. The goal is that you grade cards that are important to you and not like to resell them or crack open the case if you're not happy with the grade and grade them somewhere else. They're 100% based in Germany, and they aim to create a more personal experience when grading your cards. You have a bunch of customization options, like you can pick different colors for your case. You can have your own logo printed on the label, and that is particularly cool to me. They have a more environmentally friendly option in the eco case. All the information about that are going to be found on their website. I'm going to link them in the description down below. They are also going to have a giveaway for you guys as a kickoff for our collaboration, and it's going to be a Joshua Schmidt signature collection, 100 cards graded by them, given away to you guys for free. And you can even select which cards you would like to have. There's a Google form. I'm going to pick 25 most voted cards from that Google form, and there's going to be 4 copies each given away to you guys as part of the signature collection. Once again, thank you to Cloud Card Grading for sponsoring the channel, and let's get back into the video. I wanted to have a quick talk about what we would do, and like I said, I have on purpose not included as many cards in this discussion simply because I don't think the current format needs that many things to change. Most of the decks in the current format are fine. I think there's just a few cards. I don't even want to say ruin the experience. That's definitely too harsh, but there's definitely some individual cards that really stop this format from being a lot better than it could be. Let's start with the elephant in the room, which is Snake Eyes. And for Snake Eyes, I personally think there are only very few cards worth bringing up. And I think there are 2 options that they realistically have that I would like. I personally don't like hitting Promethean Princess, at least not yet, simply because I think there's a lot of decks out there that can make good use of Promethean Princess that are in the format and viable because of it. Salamangreat, for example, right? Maybe at some point we're gonna be sick of it if every format there's like 2 or 3 different fire decks that just spam Promethean Princess or whatever, right? For now, I think the only deck that people really have an issue with is Snake Eyes. Right? And so I would like to see one of 2 things happen. Either they need to hit the starters / extenders of the deck relatively significantly, like what they've done in the OCG. I think in the OCG, it's like limit Snake Eye Ash, limit Wanted, or this is Master Duel at the moment. My issue with this is that it doesn't really hurt the consistency in the long run for Snake Eyes, simply because if you look into the Infinite Forbidden, the Fiendsmith cards basically completely make up for this, which is being played in the OCG. I guess I can show you guys a list real quick. As you can see in the OCG, 2 Ash, 1 Wanted, they just make up for it by playing the Fiendsmith engine, which gets you to the Snake Eye cards, and they also are special summons and all that kind of stuff. So I think consistency hits to Snake Eyes are fine. Limit or semi-limit these cards is up to them. I think that would be warranted. I don't think it would be enough. Even this limit would not be enough because you simply make up for it with the Fiendsmith cards. I would be down to ban Flamberge. I'm gonna try to keep it realistic. I don't think that's the one they're gonna choose because that completely murders Snake Eyes, and I'm not sure if that's their goal yet. It might be your goal. You might prefer that. I'm trying to think from Konami's perspective. I don't think they want to completely kill the deck. And the same is kind of true for banning Poplar. My favorite would be banning original Sinful Spoils, because that way the Snake Eye cards are still powerful, the temple lines are still good, but you don't have 6 copies of which to extend your plays into the Snake Eye stuff. I think that's okay. OSS cuts off archetypes from the entire engine. Yeah, that's the point. Let's say they did this. I'd be pretty happy with that, and I don't think they'd have to hit Bonfire if they did that. What about Fire King? Fire King is a functioning strategy even without original. Why limit Wanted if you ban OSS? I guess. Do we not hit Wanted if we ban OSS? Probably not. My personal opinion that banning Oak does not do enough. I think it's either ban Original or ban Flamberge. Ban Oak, ban Field Spell, limit Flamberge. That would work, but that's a lot of steps to not just ban Original Sinful Spells. The point I'm trying to make is that I think there are ways to hit Snake Eyes to a point where it's not completely dead, but it might be more like a tier 2 strategy, which I think that should be the goal. I'm scared if they only hit Ash and Wanted that it doesn't do anything, because then people simply play this. I firmly believe something out of Snake Eyes needs to be banned. And the reason is because we have so many replacements for these cards. This deck, in terms of starters and extenders, has 2 Ash, 3 Bonfire, 1 Wanted, 3 Fiendsmith, Fiendsmith Spell, which they aren't even maxing on, and 3 Diabellstar. And like Poplar is also a fine normal. It's just too much. The deck has too much consistency and extension potential, so that like limiting or semi-limiting anything would be enough. So I think something needs to be banned for Snake Eyes. Another possible thing that you guys are mentioning is like hitting Beatrice because of the Fiendsmith stuff coming out. I agree with you guys. If I was making the ban list, I would probably preemptively hit Beatrice. The same way I would have also preemptively hit something like Calamity before Centurion came out. Matter of fact is they didn't do that because they probably want those cards to be sold, which I think is understandable in that regard. So I think what they need to do is take other measures to stop Snake Eyes from completely dominating with the Fiendsmith. So that's the Snake Eye situation. I'm not super happy about the spot that we are in with Snake Eyes in terms of like the ban list. The chances that they do this right are not that high, but I'll be pleasantly surprised if they do. Next up, Branded. It speaks a lot about this format. A deck like Branded, which should be the king of grind games, has to resort to a puppet lock. The way people play Branded right now is literally like an FTK deck because it otherwise can't win. It's so dumb, right? Like Branded is a deck that normally should be able to outgrind and play super intricate games and cool game states against people. And instead, the deck is forced to be played in such a stupid way because it can't keep up with Snake Eyes otherwise. I'm gonna sound like a broken record between the last 3 or 4 ban list discussions, but this puppet lock needs to stop. Sanctifier needs to be banned. Everything else about the deck I think is fine. Branded is a strong deck. Branded has weaknesses though. There's a lot of stuff to deal with Branded. The thing that you can't really deal with realistically is the puppet lock, and I think the more realistic ban for that is Albion, because there's other options if you only ban the puppet. Also, the puppet is something that they might want to keep around because Gimmick Puppet are also getting support. Maybe this is going to be a problem again with Gimmick Puppets coming out in the future, and then maybe we'll talk about that that again. For now, everything else about branded is fine. Branded fusion can stay. Everything else can stay. Just hit that sanctifier. I don't know. I've been begging for the last 50,000 ban list discussions. This card needs to go, and then branded is fine. Oh, gimmick puppets don't even play Nightmare. Okay, even better. Just leave it at 3 and no one cares if they ban Albion. That's perfect. Tenpai is in an interesting spot right now. Tenpai is very, very new, and Tenpai gets more support, which is letting me to believe that I don't think they're gonna hit Tenpai, guys. Even though there are cards in the Tenpai archetype that eventually will be on the ban list. Not now, because it hasn't even gotten its second wave yet. It's already a good deck, but it's not unbeatable by any means. It has counterplay. If anything, I would limit Pot of Prosperity, which also kind of hits Tenpai. Does anyone have an issue with Fenrir being a good staple card, like Board Breaker-ish? I'm not sure how I feel about it right now. I'm genuinely asking. Except for Farfa. I don't know how I feel about it, because on the one hand, Fenrir feels like a really, really good card. Don't get me wrong. But then often, I don't feel like Fenrir is the broken card that people make it out to be. Like, yes, it's a solid card in a lot of different game states. It's really flexible, but I never feel like it's completely unreasonable. Like, if I'm comparing it to so many other cards, like, it never feels like a shifter or a skill drain or any other floodgate or whatever. Like, it doesn't feel that broken. I don't have a problem with Fenrir, but I also wouldn't have a problem if they hit it. Fenrir to 2 was really nice. I think Fenrir to 2 is also fine. Honestly, Fenrir is one of the few cards that I don't have a strong opinion on. I don't even know why Pankratops is still in here. I only wanted to include cards that I wanted to put potentially on the ban list, but Pankratops can go back to 3. And now we're talking about the every ban list discussion for Eternity squad until they eventually get hit. Besides Snake Eyes, these are the cards that I have the most issues with, and that is some generic floodgates / extra deck monsters. They have a large impact and keep this format from being so much better than it could be. Let's talk about the floodgates first, because I think this is very realistic, and I want to give a shout out to Konami for doing really well on this recently. I don't know why they started super late with hitting the floodgates, but they have started hitting the super relevant floodgates in each individual format. I think if you look at the current format and if you look at their behavior from recent ban lists, there is like a very high chance that Skill Drain at least gets the limit again. Right now, Snake Eye decks, every single one is citing Skill Drain. I think we are getting close to the point that they have actually dealt with most of the floodgates in a sufficient way. There's not that many left that are actually good floodgates. I don't think we are that far away from a solution to the floodgate problem. Yeah, people even main decked Skill Drain because of how broken it was. Deck Lockdown and Mistake are next. Deck Lockdown, yes, Deck Lockdown is already seeing some play. Look, there's a good reason why those cards have not seen play in forever, because they are worse floodgates, which a worse floodgate is better for the game than a good floodgate. You get what I mean? If they hit Skill Drain and people replace it with Mistake, that's fine. Because guess what? You can SP Mistake. And Rivalry I can see getting banned. Rivalry is the summon limit of this format. It gets banned. Skill Drain is the anti-spell of this format. It goes to 1. In previous ban list discussions, I've always said, like, I want to ban all the floodgates. The more realistic approach is to just ask for them to hit the floodgates that are being played at the moment. I think Gozen and there can be only one, even though they are cards that I would like to be banned. I don't think it's, like, warranted to ask for that at the moment, because people are simply not playing those cards. Anti-Spell is at 1. They are not going to hit it because Anti-Spell is nowhere near as popular as the other ones right now. Same reasoning as before. Realistically, do I think they're going to hit Dimension Shifter? I would hit it. I don't think they will, because it helps some of the decks that are coming out. Ritual Beast, for example, is a new archetype in Battles of Legends that benefits from Dimension Shifter in a great way. You guys know I would, but in order to keep it somewhat realistic, I don't think the time to hit Shifter is exactly right now. And especially, I think at the moment, Konami has this mentality a lot of the time. If a card is being used to hit the best deck in the format, it shouldn't get hit. Like, Shifter is super strong against Snake Eye, so like, we're not hitting it. The same might be true for Rivalry, honestly. Like, Rivalry might stay because they think it's good against Snake Eyes. And that's why I think Skill Drain is going to get a hit, because it's being used by the best deck in the game, right? Most decks can't actually play Skill Drain super well, but like Snake Eyes can. You guys know I would hit Shifter, but I don't think they will. Appaloosa. Semi-limit. I think Appaloosa deserves to be banned. I don't know if they will. I hope it gets the Baron treatment. I can see it happening. I'm kind of sick of it at this point. simply because it feels like Appaloosa is kind of in that spot where every single combo deck just ends on Appaloosa every single time. I will say I think Appaloosa is less toxic as something like Baron or Savage, simply because breaking boards with Appaloosa on it is much easier than breaking boards with Baron or Savage on it. A format where every deck makes Appaloosa is more solvable than a format where every deck makes Baron. I think it's a not yet. Another one that I forgot to put here is IP Masquerena. Before SP came out, I would have said like IP Masquerena is completely fine. Even after SP, I am not sure if the problem is really IP Masquerena. I think Flamberge is what makes IP Masquerena so broken. I think IP Masquerena without Snake Eyes in the mix is okay. I'm gonna throw all my principles out of the window and say Calamity, ban Calamity. Even though there's not many decks playing it at the moment, I don't want that shit. Get that shit out of here. That should have happened way earlier. So what you will notice is that I genuinely don't believe we are far away from a very good Yu-Gi-Oh format. Besides Snake Eye hits and Albion, it's only generic cards. Yeah, that's my opinion. Hit Snake Eye, hit Albion, and hit some of the generic cards that ruin a bunch of games, and we're Gucci. I think that's literally what it is. What about plants? Dude, no, plants don't need to be hit. Plants are fine. I think the reason why they won German Nats and the reason why Jess was able to perform with it is that these players are just really good with it. What about limiting or banning cards that should be free? See, there's a lot of those, and I kind of went away from including those in every single discussion, because at the end of the day, there are a bunch of cards on the ban list that could easily come off the ban list, and I think they know that as well. I think they are kind of picking the best moments to bring these cards back. Discussing the cards that could come off the ban list is not as interesting as the stuff that needs to happen with the cards that are legal. Free my boy Circular? No, never. Out of principle. Leave that card banned forever.